following through on what they say. But I want you to know that I'm here for you. And I'm not going nowhere. Come here. Lay your head down on my shoulder. Yeah. Promise you don't have to shed another painful tear, because I'm your man, 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 and I ain't going nowhere. We gon' make it through this thing.
What up, what up?
I'm your man, I'm your man, I'm your
What
man,
up, what up, what up?
I'm your man.
Let's go.
We gon' ride, we gon' ride. Still remember the day I looked into your eyes. You caught me by surprise. Better walk, better talk, the way you made me gravitate towards you. It changed me for the better. You're all I need, and you're all I see, and you're fine as wine. I'm so blessed you're mine. You stole my heart right from the start. When you said hello, I saw your glow. Hey, I'm your man, 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 and I ain't going nowhere. We gon' make it through this thing called life. I'm your man, 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 and we gon' ride, we gon' ride. Hey, if you ever been in love, put your hands up. If you tired of the lies, put your hands up. Wave them high up to the sky. If you ever been in love, put your hands up. If you're tired of the lies, put your hands up. Wave them high up to the sky. I'm your man, yeah, I'm your man, I'm your man. And I ain't going nowhere. We gon' make it through this thing called life. I'm your man, 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 and we gon' ride, we gon' ride. I'm your man, 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 and I ain't going nowhere. We gon' make it through this thing called life. I'm your man, 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 and we gon' ride, we gon' ride. Lay your head down on my shoulder. Yeah, yeah.
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, y'all? What's going on? Let me turn my volume down a little bit. How y'all doing? Man,
Baby,
welcome back, family. Y'all, hold on.
I know you're not used to man.
Let me pause this. Welcome back, family. Welcome, welcome, welcome back. Welcome back. I appreciate y'all. This is definitely a family reunion. It's so good to see y'all out here. I got to give a shout out. I ain't seen some of y'all in a minute. Oh my gosh. My bro is in the building. Let's roll through this here. April Showers Network. How you doing? Riri. What up, Riri? How are you? Queen Keish, what's good? To Be Black Native in the house. What's going on? Cherie Harris. Hello. How are you? Flawless. What's going on, niece? How are you? Let me see who else up in here. Tanya with the T is in the building. What's up, Tanya? How are you? Davis Campos, how you doing? She said, oh my God, I never clicked on this so fast. I'm so happy. Hey, fam, how you doing, Davis Campos? I'm so happy to see y'all here. Tammy Guest Beckham said, hello, everyone. I'm sorry I've been gone so long. I had to take time for healing after a stroke. God bless you. I'm glad you're healing. Plus taking care of my hubby who now has dementia. Well, I pray for your strength. I'm glad to see you here. Man, Tanya, see, time to take another sicko down. Okay. Let me see who else. Rocky Rock in the building. What up, Rocky Rock? How you doing? Is Blessed in the building. How are you? Man, let me see who else up in here. Take R. Kelly back and give us Tupac. What's going on, Take? How are you? May 1994. What's going on? Who was worse, Diddy or R. Kelly? I guess we all got opinions about that. King Johan is in the building. What's going on, bro? How you doing, man? Thanks for coming in. We got Survivor Speaks in the building. How you doing, Survivor Speaks? Man, y'all need to go check Survivor Speaks channel out. She doing some amazing things over there. Survivor Speaks, if you don't mind, put your link in my chat. We all are small channels should support each other, man. So y'all support her. She talks about a lot of celebrity crime. So a lot of very interesting stuff dealing with celebrities. So that's awesome. What's up, my bro? Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Let's see who else in here. DV Wow. What's up, bro? How you doing? All right, y'all. So tonight is the night. We're gonna get back started. Oh, let me do this right quick. Hold on. Let me just change something up real quick. Let me do this. Hold on. Let me do this right quick. Let me change something up. How do I do this? Let me see. Present. Y'all hold one moment. I'm just changing something. Style, presets, and color, default. Yeah, I like that color. That color's cool. Okay, display names. Yes. Okay, there we go. Okay, cool. Y'all know who I am. Let me do this. Oh, let me see. Edit this. Nope, it's all good. Okay, y'all. So tonight, y'all already know what we about to do. We about to read these Diddy transcripts. Okay. Man, listen. God is good. I think that this is going to be something that we can definitely continue to do. As y'all notice, I didn't ask anybody for money to do this because honestly, I was sitting here trying to decide if I wanted to get back into this. The R. Kelly thing was just crazy. But as I sat back and watched, I didn't really see anyone really, other than a few people that were putting in the time to actually let people know the actual truth of what's going on in that courtroom. It's a lot of different opinions. And I said, you know what? This was something that really helped our channel grow and a lot of people gravitated towards. And we did such a great job with so many amazing readers who helped bring this to life. So I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and get back into it. I reached out to a couple of people and they looked out. And so here we are, y'all. Here we are. Let's see here. Are you having readers like the R. Kelly trial? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And some of those amazing readers are here right now. So some of those people, Tanya with the T, Riri. I'm about to put the to be Black Native. My readers, I'm gonna post the link in the chat if y'all want to come on and say hello to everybody, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started, y'all. Now we'll let y'all know. Okay, so we have day one. Day one has like 243 pages. We are not going to get through all 243 pages tonight. However, we are going to get into a pretty good chunk of it. And then, as y'all know, once we get tired of reading, then we're going to go ahead and come back and continue to read. And we're just going to continue till we get through every page and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and post this link right now. Let me copy this. I'm going to put this in the chat. Excuse me, we paste. Okay, so my readers, go ahead and click on the link. That's right there. That's the StreamYard right there. Go ahead and click on that link that's in the chat. Click on that and come on screen. And then we're gonna go ahead and get all the technical kinks worked out. And then we're gonna go ahead and get into this reading, y'all. So go ahead and reread. If you could come up. Let me see. King Johan, definitely. Tanya with the T and to be Black Native. We're gonna see what other and any of my other readers that come in. Y'all know who y'all are. Hit the link, man. Come on up here. I think we can have at the most 6. So let's go ahead and rock this thing out. So y'all come on up and let's get going. Come on up and let's get going. When I tell y'all this is gonna be so much fun. We're going to get back at it, man. I appreciate everybody who's here. All right, who's in here? All right. So B is here. B, how you doing? Can you hear me? Awesome. Awesome. Riri is in the building. What up, Riri?
Hey, what's happening, everybody?
How are you?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Man, good. What's up, Tanya with the T?
Hello, hello. How's it going?
We are great. Thank you for
Missed
coming.
you all.
I know, right?
Thank you so much. King Johan is on his way. And we got the band back together, man. We got the band back together. That's what it is. So how y'all been doing? How life been treating y'all?
Good.
Good.
That's awesome, man. Tanya, how the kids doing?
My boy is. I'm a grandma.
Ooh,
You
congratulations.
a what? You a grandma? Well, I'm
Yep.
a grandpa.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to you too. Thank you so much, Survivor Speaks, for the super chat. We appreciate that over here. Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank
since
you
we're
so
talking
much.
about shouting out grandkids, I just have a new, my seventh one. He is 2 months old.
7.
Congratulations. Wow.
That's
That's
awesome.
a lot of love to spread around.
Yes, I love it.
I love it.
That
Mine is
awesome.
9 months old.
Oh,
9 months. That's what's up. Hey, Vicky B from the UK. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming over here, Vicky B from the UK. All right, y'all. Listen, Survivor Speaks. Put your link in my channel. I want people to always hear about uplifting channels and supporting. So put your link in my channel. Thanks for supporting. I appreciate you. All right, King Johan, you coming on, bro? Oh, it's 2 a.m. there? Oh, wow. All right, so King Johan gonna jump in. So y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and pull these up. And let's just kind of see what's going on so we can see who's going to read what. We may have, split it up and all that kind of stuff. So let's just kind of pull this up real quick. Hold on. Let's go ahead and get this formatted. So let me share this. Let's see here. Present, share screen. Here we go. All right, Diddy. What's up? What's up? Okay, so here we go. Let me see how y'all are able to see this. So can y'all see this pretty clear?
yep.
I tried to zoom it in so it was a lot easier. Okay, good. Awesome. So what we're gonna do here is let's go ahead and dig into this. Let's get into this. And what we'll do is we'll see who is who. Let's see if I can see who is supposed to be here. It looks like it is United States District Court, Southern District of New York, United States of America versus Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, P Diddy, Diddy, PD, Love. This was the he had all kind of crazy names, huh? This is in New York, May 12th, 9:18 a.m. before the Honorable Arun Subramanian. Now, I would assume. Let me see. Somebody just popped in. Who popped in? Let me see.
I think it's Subramanian.
Is it Subramanian?
Submarinian.
There you go.
Subramanian, yeah.
All right. Introducing King Johan.
Ooh, blast from the
Yo.
Okay. We in the
Man,
building.
how you
What's happening?
gonna come on here stunting with the doggone with the place in the back? That's hard, bro. Nice to see you, bro.
Look like you got a little
Hey,
too
man.
much.
You know what I'm saying? You got to keep the ambiance, man.
Indeed. All right, can all of y'all see this pretty good?
Yes.
Does anyone know if this name is a woman or a male?
The man.
This is a
He's
man.
a man.
Is he what's his? Is he Indian? Is he,
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think I can pull that off. Okay, so let's see what else we got going on. Let me go over here. All right.
Hey, bro, I'm hearing a strong reverb.
Are you? Hey, y'all. So everybody, as we read, probably what we're gonna do is whenever whoever's reading, we're going to go on mute so that the other person can. Then when it's your turn to read, then we'll come in. We're gonna do it that way. But what I'll do is I can start off as the judge. I can pull off a pretty good Indian accent because I deal with a lot of Indians in my workforce. So I think I can pull that off pretty good. Let me see. So I'm gonna read some of this here. Appearances are Jay Clayton, which is the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, by Madison R. Smizer, Emily A. Johnson, Maureen R. Comey, Meredith Foster, Mitzi Steiner, Mary C. Slavic, who are the assistant United States attorneys. And then for the appearances are continued, it's going to be Agnifilio Atrita LLP. I guess that's the name of the. Thank you, honey. Appreciate it. Oh yeah, Lady K done hooked me up, y'all. I got the doggone taco salad as y'all can see. Ooh wee. I don't know if y'all can see this or not, but oh yeah. Okay. Who was that? Mark A. Agnifilio, Tenny R. Garagas, and Sheer Tremonte by Anna M. Estavo and Shapiro Ataro Bach LLP by Alexandria A. E. Shapiro, Jason A. Driscoll, Xavier R. Donaldson, and Brian Steele. Do any of y'all know, is that name Brian Steele sound familiar to any of y'all?
Young Thug.
Young Thug, YSL trial.
Renee Glover, what's going on, my sister? How you doing? Yes. Young Thug, and he did a great job with Young Thug, right?
I loved it. Oh, he was great.
He was really great.
I just hope he don't do that great over here.
I know, right?
Right?
I know. It's like good job on the last one, but don't do too good over here.
Right.
Also, is Linda Marino, defense jury consultant. So this is this is Mr. Agnifilo. So if you want to, King Johan, you can read him. It says in the robing room. If you want to start off reading him, we can go ahead and start there. And then we got the court, and it like I guess I will be the court, the judge. So let's try to figure this thing out, and we'll work it out. Let me see. Hold on, I got a text. Let me see. Just saying. Okay. Thank you so much. And hey y'all, if y'all want to support the channel, support helping us get future transcripts, feel free to send to the Cash App or to the Zelle. I'm not begging or asking nobody. If you want to be a blessing, that'll be awesome. I'm good, baby. Thank you. All right, so let's. So if you want to, King Johan, start off as Mr. Agnifilo.
That's the defense, ain't it?
Let's see. Let's see what they are. Let me see.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's the defense.
It's the defense. Okay, yeah.
Why am I still hearing the playback?
Yeah, I hear it too. It sounds like a buzzing sound. Can everybody mute their phones?
I hear a whole double back after a while too.
Does anyone have two devices on? Maybe a phone up and this here? And I'll mute myself too, just to make sure. Maybe make sure my stuff is muted.
I muted my device. I muted my YouTube device.
All right, I'm gonna mute too until I got. I hear somebody. All right, so everybody, okay. All right, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mute. Oh, I just muted Johan. Okay. Johan, I see what it is. You got two channels up, bro.
All right.
So I'm gonna take one of yours off. I think I could do it from here.
Okay.
So don't hang up. Let me just do this. Let me kick this one from the studio. Oh, damn, I kicked them off. Come back on, Johan. You had two up there. All right. So he gonna come back. And then we're gonna go ahead and get started, y'all. Are y'all as excited as I am?
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, yes.
It's just like old times.
Yes.
I'm not falling asleep today, though.
Oh, yeah. No falling asleep today. That's awesome.
No sleeping today. I'm too excited.
All right. Yeah,
Oh,
Johan,
good
come on.
times.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's awesome. This is awesome.
I
miss
was
y'all, man.
telling you about this. I was waiting for this day to come back.
I know, me too. I would sit back and I would think, I wonder how everybody doing. All right, Johan, you back. Okay. All right, brother. So go ahead and how does he sound, y'all, when he talks? You go ahead and talk by yourself, Johan. I'm gonna mute. Let's see how you sound.
Yeah, it still sound like I just heard it twice again.
Does anybody know what we can do to fix that? Because I hear him.
Does he have his volume up on YouTube and StreamYard? Because you can't have both.
No.
But I think Tubi, you didn't mute though.
Oh, I need to mute here. Okay.
Okay, let's try now.
Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, see, I still hear it after a while. It's like a delay.
Can anybody else hear it? I don't hear. I hear a little sound, but I don't hear nothing else.
I hear a little sound, but that's it.
All right, let's rock and roll. Go ahead and start us off, bro.
All right. One thing on the record, the court's record. I'm happy to do it on the record. I'm going to ask the victim, that victim number one, when she testifies, be already in the jury box when the jury comes in. Only as to her. Only because of her physical condition. I mean, there are certain things we can't control a juror who is 8.5 months pregnant. But I think there's a quality to her walking in front of the jury that I think is easily avoidable. I'm not making an application for any of the other witnesses.
Okay, here we go. Wait, let me make sure I understand.
Yes.
Miss Comey, who's the first witness? Okay, so Miss Comey, go ahead, Riri. Riri, you want to read Miss Comey? You probably on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was reading and I was muted.
Okay.
First witness is Israel Flores.
That's what I thought. When we get the third witness, which is Mrs. Ventura.
Correct, Your Honor.
When we get to our third witness, just for the purposes of the witness, Mr. Agnafilo.
Yes.
Would you like to be already sitting in the witness box?
Yes.
When the jury comes in?
Correct.
All right. Let me think about that.
Your Honor, we would object. If Your Honor is considering it, I would like to be heard on that. I don't think that there was any basis to treat any witness differently because of the medical condition, most notably pregnancy. I think that would be deeply inappropriate.
I can make an application. It doesn't have to be done now. It can be done before she testifies.
Wait, that's King Johan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Damn, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I can make the application. It doesn't have to be done now. It can be done before she testifies. Anytime good for the court.
I'll think about it. Ms. Comey makes a good point. You know, we wouldn't treat people differently based on any other sort of medical condition or physical impairment or any attribute, right? Would we treat them differently?
Because I think there is a prejudicial quality. Pregnancy is beautiful and wonderful. It also is a source of potential sympathy.
And they are going to see the witnesses.
100%.
Aren't they also going to see the witness leaving the witness stand? Oh, what are you trying to achieve?
Well, so in past trials, and each trial is different, I've certainly had situations where the jury was excused before the witness either sat down or left the witness stand. And I like to make that application for all the witnesses, except I think it takes a certain little bit more time. So I wasn't going to do that in interest of time. I've always preferred the procedure where the witness is seated, then the jury comes in. I've probably had most of my trials with that as the process.
Well, the court does not that too. You know, when it fosters efficiently, I'm sure that we will actually do that at this trial. But you're making a different application. You're saying we will, in fact, have the witness seated wherever the jury comes in, and there's an objection to that, and it's a fair one. That I don't know that there is any support anywhere in the history of American jurisprudence. Now you can find that for me. You got time. I've heard the objection. I tend to agree with it. However, you're not going to until the afternoon, because this isn't going to happen. If it happens today at all, I think you'll got some time. If you have any support for that, I'm happy to take a look at it. Deputy Clerk Tammy. Tanya, I'm sorry, Tanya. Good grief.
I'm sorry. Your Honor, can we go off the record?
Mr. Courtroom Deputy, Mr. Courtroom, okay, so that's a mister. That's okay. That's okay. Mr. Courtroom Deputy, are we prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. I will check on them right now.
So, Mrs. Shapiro, you could do that, Miss to be Black Native.
She's muted.
Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute to be.
I'm sorry. Can I just put one thing on this record?
Yes.
We just want to note to supplement the Batson application, which we understand Your Honor has denied, that in addition to the points Mr. Agnifilio made, that two of the Black individuals the government struck, number 161, 163, were the only two Black men in the first 28.
All right.
Your Honor, I don't think that that's right. In the first 28?
In the first 28.
That's what?
I don't think that that's right. If I could correct the record, juror number 184, who is on the jury, and I believe is a Black man.
Well, I think we have the government's response. Ms. Comey, do you have anything further in response to Mrs. Shapiro's submission?
Wait, that's me, right? Ms.
Oh,
Comey.
no,
I'm sorry, you were reading that. I'm
yeah.
sorry, my bad. Your Honor, I would want the record to also reflect that there were other men who weren't non-white men also seated on the jury. I think I noted that, but given,
I don't think that's correct, but
All right. I understand that you've supplemented the record. Ms. Comey has responded, and the Baston application continues to be denied. So with that, at this point, Mr. Courtroom Deputy, are we prepared to bring in the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's bring in the jury.
Please be seated. Your Honor, I'll confirm I have the jurors seated in the correct position. Are you juror number 2?
Yes.
Are you juror number 5?
Yes.
Are you juror number 25?
Yes.
Are you juror number 55?
Yes.
Are you juror number 58?
Yes.
Are you juror number 75?
Yes.
Are you juror number 116?
Yes.
Thank you. Are you juror number 160?
Yes.
Are you juror number 184?
Yes.
Are you juror number 201?
Yes.
Are you juror number 217?
Yeah.
Proceeding to the last row, are you juror number 230?
Yes.
Are you juror number 234?
Yes.
Are you juror number 292?
Yes.
That's why we do this. Are you juror number 292?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Are you juror number 321?
Yes.
Are you juror number 330?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for bearing with us through the jury selection process. And welcome back to the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. As you were told when you were here for the jury selection, I am Azran Subramanian, and I will be presiding over the trial in this case, United States of America versus Sean Combs. The trial will begin shortly with opening statements. We will sit every weekday throughout is over with the exception of court holidays. Our anticipated schedule has not changed since I spoke to you last. The attorneys and I expect this trial to be over before July 4th. Obviously, it is possible that the trial will go longer, and I don't expect that it will. Every day this week, we will be here at 9:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. After this week, we will go from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. each day, and we will try to make your trial experience as smooth and pleasant as possible. Now, if any issues come up, then please contact the courtroom deputy. A light breakfast will be available for every trial in the jury room at 8:30 a.m. And I encourage you to arrive early so to not delay our jurors and the participants in this trial. Now, we would take a shorter than usual break for lunch. I'm anticipating about 30 minutes, but we will have lunch provided for you in the jury room, so you don't need to leave the courtroom to take an additional time. Huh? Oh, okay.
Oh, never mind.
Now, the reason why we will have one shorter break in the middle of the day is so that we can leave earlier. Now, most days, this is the point, so that you can have more time to attend the things that you need to do in life while you're conducting this trial. Of course, if you need a break during the proceedings of any urgent personal reason, you should let the courtroom deputy know. Now, but I will make every effort to make this trial along promptly and make efficient use of your time. Now, the names and identities of the jurors are known to the court and both parties, but will keep your names and identities in confidence. Now, in order to protect your privacy, the personal information about you will not be disclosed to the public. This is in no way unusual. It is actually common practice following in many cases in the federal courts that is being followed here in this case. Now, the courtroom deputy will now swear in the jury. Is there anyone in the jury who does not swear on oath but affirm? Okay, put your hands down for a minute. Is there anyone who does not take an oath? You can raise your hands again. A jury, 12 jurors and 6 alternates were impaneled and sworn. Okay. Now, members of the jury, now that you have been sworn, I will give you some preliminary instructions to guide you in your participation in this trial. To begin with, you are here to administer justice in the case according to the law and evidence. Now, you are to perform this task with complete fairness and impartiality, and because and without bias, prejudice, or sympathy for any of or against any of the parties. Now, it will be your duty to find the evidence, what the facts are. You and you alone will be the judges of the facts. Now, you will have to apply those facts to the law, and the court will give it to you. Now, you must also follow the law whether you agree or not. Now, nothing that I say or do during the trial is intended to indicate or should be taken by you as indicating what the verdict should be. The evidence from which you will find the facts will consist of the testimony of witnesses, documents, and other things received into the record as exhibits, as well as any facts that the parties agree to or stimulate that the court may instruct you to find. Now, certain things are not evidence and must not be considered by you. I will list them for you now. First, statements, arguments, and questions by lawyers are not evidence, nor are the own statements to you. Only the answers given by the witnesses and the documents admitted as exhibits are evidence. Second, objections to questions are not evidence. The lawyers have an obligation to the clients to make a proper. Hold on. Somebody stop. Oh, everybody good. Okay. Okay, good. To make a proper. Hold on. Clients to make answers given in a second. Make offer improper under the rules of evidence. You should not be influenced by the court's ruling on an objection. If the objection is sustained, ignore the question. If it is overruled, treat the answer like any other. If you are instructed that some item of evidence is received for the limited purposes only, you must follow the instruction. Third, the testimony that the court has excluded or told you to disregard is not evidence and may not be considered. Finally, anything that you may have seen or heard outside of the courtroom is not evidence and must be disregarded. You are to decide the case solely on the evidence presented here in this courtroom. Now, when you are determining the facts, keep in mind that there are two types of evidence: direct and circumstantial. Direct evidence is direct proof of fact, such as the evidence of any eyewitnesses. Circumstantial evidence is proof of facts from which you may infer or conclude that other facts exist. The word infer, or the expression to draw an inference, means to find that the fact exists from proof of another fact. An inference is to be drawn only if it is logical and reasonable to do so, and not by speculation or guesswork. In deciding whether to draw an inference, you must look at and consider all of the facts in the light of reason, common sense, and experience. Whether a given inference is or is not to be drawn is entirely a matter for you, the jury, to decide. Circumstantial evidence does not necessarily prove less than direct evidence, nor does it necessarily prove more. Now, here's an example to help you to think about the difference between direct and circumstantial evidence. Assume that you came into the courtroom this morning. The sun is shining as it is outside, and it is a nice day outwards, outdoors. Also assume that the courtroom blinds are drawn and you could not look outside. Assume further that you also are sitting here. Someone walked in with an umbrella that was dripping wet, and when a few moments later, someone else walked in with a raincoat that was also dripping wet. Now, because you could not look outside the courtroom and you couldn't see whether it was raining, and because no witness has testified that it was raining, you would have no direct evidence of the fact that it was raining. But on the combination of facts that I have asked you to assume, it would be reasonable and logical for you to conclude that it was, in fact, raining. That is all there is to circumstantial evidence. Now, you infer on the basis of reason, experience, and common sense from one established fact, the existence or non-existence of some other fact. I will give you further instructions on these, as well as other matters at the end of the case. But keep in mind that you may consider both kinds of evidence. Hold on, y'all. Hey, bro, I got the numbers. What was it 1 or 2 for what? Okay, he is okay. I'm live right now. I'm gonna hit you back. Okay. Now, one of the most important tasks as jurors is to evaluate the credibility of the witnesses who will testify before you. That is how truthful and believable they are. Listen carefully as each witness testifies doing both direct and cross-examination, and consider whether the witness is telling the truth. It will be up to you to decide which witnesses to believe, which witnesses not to believe, and how much of any witness's testimony to accept or reject. Now, how do you decide what to believe and what not to believe? You are to listen to the witnesses, observe their testimony, and then decide as you would decide such questions in your own life. Did they know what they were talking about? Were they candid, honest, open, and truthful? Did they have a reason to falsify, exaggerate, or distort their testimony? Sometimes it is not what a witness says, but how he or she says it, and it may give you a clue as to whether or not as to accept that witness version of the incident, or as an evident, credible, or believable. In short, the way a witness testifies may play an important part in your reaching a judgment as to whether or not you can accept the witness's testimony as reliable. Now, you may hear from law enforcement officials in this case. The fact that the witnesses or the witness may be employed as a law enforcement official does not mean that his or her testimony is deserving of greater or lesser weight than that of an ordinary witness. You may also hear two witnesses testifying using pseudonyms, that is, not using their real names. The government, the defense, the court, and you, the jury, will know their real names. But the names will not be used in open court solely to protect the privacy of these individuals from disclosure to persons who are not parties to his case. Now, the fact that this witness is testifying using a pseudonym does not mean that his or her testimony is deserving of greater or lesser weight than any of the other witnesses. Now, a few words about your conduct as jurors. I gave each of you the following instructions when you were here for the jury selection last week, but I will repeat the instructions now because they are extremely important, and I am counting on each and every one of you to follow them. First, during the trial, you are not to discuss the case with anyone, nor are you to permit anyone to discuss it with you. This includes posting anything on the internet about the case, whether it is on Instagram, Facebook, X, or any social media platforms or website. Until you retire from the jury room at the end of the case to deliberate, you simply are not to talk about the case with anyone, including your spouse or partner, family, or close friends. Do not even discuss the case with each other until you begin your actual deliberations at the end of the trial. Second, please do not, while you're serving as a juror in this trial, have any conversations with the parties, the attorneys, or any witnesses in the case, whether in the courtroom, in the hallways, in the elevators, outside, or anywhere else. I mean, not only to avoid talking about the case, but do not talk at all, even to say good morning or to acknowledge any of these people. Someone seeing a juror in conversation with the party lawyer or witness might think that something improper was being discussed. To avoid even the appearance of Impropriety. Avoid any such contact or conversations. I can tell you that when the parties, witnesses, and lawyers pass you in the halls without even acknowledging your presence, they do not mean to be rude. They are simply following my orders because I have ordered them not to talk to you. Now, third, do not read or listen to anything outside the courtroom that relates to this case in any way. You are not to allow anyone to speak to you about this case. If you are approached by anyone to speak about it, politely but firmly tell them that the judge has directed you not to do so, because I am ordering you not to do so. If any person seeks to contact you about the case, you are required to report the incident promptly to me by sending me a note through my courtroom deputy or through the jury office. Also, be sure that I am informed if any person that you know comes into the courtroom. This is a public trial, so it could happen. But it is important that you do not hear from, what may have happened in the courtroom while the jury was not present. If you should see a friend or relative come into the courtroom, please send them a note through the deputy to your first opportunity. Fourth, do not try to do any research or make any independent investigation about the case or the issues brought up by this case. Do not go to the internet tonight and research any matters related to this case. Do not call up lawyer friends and ask about the type of matters at issue here. Fifth, I know many of you use cell phones, laptops, social media, the internet, and other tools of technology. You all do. You must not use tools to communicate electronically with anyone about the case. This includes your family and friends. You may not communicate with anyone about the case of any technological device, including through email, text messages, or any social media websites. Finally, do not form any opinion until all of the evidence is in. A case can only be presented step by step, witness by witness, until all of the evidence is before you. Keep an open mind until you start your deliberations at the end of the case. Now, you are permitted to take notes during this trial. The courtroom deputy has given each of you a notepad and a pen. Please write your name on it or your jury number, on the cover of the pad. Do not write your name, just a number. Now, if you do take notes, please do so only on these pads. Remember that any notes you take are for your use only, and they are to be used only as an aid to your memory controls. If you do take notes, be careful not to get so involved in taking notes that you are not listening to the evidence. Now, once you are in your deliberations, if there is a disagreement between one juror's notes and another juror's notes, then, or between one juror's notes and another juror's recollection, then, you can ask to have the court reporter read back the testimony or to have the portion of the transcript sent to you. For it is the official court transcript that controls, not any particular jury's notes. Now, during the course of trial, exhibits will be received into evidence. They will be marked by exhibit numbers. If there is any exhibit that you are interested in seeing during your deliberations, or you think that you might be interested, just write down the exhibit number at the end of the trial, and you can begin your deliberations. As you begin your deliberations, we will provide each of you a list of all witnesses who testified, as well as the list of all the exhibits that have been received into evidence. This will be a lengthy trial with many exhibits and witnesses, but please do not hesitate to request as much material as you need when you are in your deliberations. Now, we will now begin the trial. As I told you earlier, the trial is expected to be done in 8 weeks. This week will begin each day at 9:30 a.m. Please be on time. To help ensure that we start on time, please be in the jury room at 9:15 a.m. at the latest so that you can begin without delaying. Starting next week, we will begin trial at 9 a.m. each day, and I will ask you to be here in the morning by 8:45. The key thing is that nobody is late. If any of you are late, we will have to wait, and we can't start until you're all here. Now, and all of us will have to just find, be cooling our heels until you arrive. And if we lose 10 to 20 minutes each day, we might not be able to get completed on time. It might go past July 4th, which nobody wants. Now, let me tell you how the trial will proceed. First, we will have opening statements. An attorney for the government will make opening statements. Then the attorney for the defense will do so. Opening statements are neither evidence nor argument. They are simply outlines, and they are given to help you follow the evidence as it is presented. After opening statements, the government will present its case. The government will call its witnesses, and after each witness testifies, the defense will have an opportunity to examine the witness. If the witness is also one of the witnesses the defense will call, the defendant may also examine what witness on matters relevant to its defense so that the witness does not have to testify twice. Following the government's case, the government will rest. The defendant will then have an opportunity to present a defense case should he choose to do so. The defendant here is under no obligation to present a defense. The burden remains at all times on the government to prove the elements of each offense beyond a reasonable doubt. Should the defendant present a defense case, any remaining defense witnesses will testify, and the government will have an opportunity to cross-examine them. After the evidence is completed and all sides have rested, the attorneys will have their summations. This is the opportunity for the lawyers to summarize the evidence and to give their closing arguments. Following the summations, I will give you instructions on the law, and you will then finally retire to deliberate on your verdict. I know this will be a long road, but I want to emphasize that you have a tremendously important task as to jurors. It is to determine the facts. You and not the court are sole judges of the facts. The Constitution itself recognizes your unique role in our system of justice. So please be careful. Pay careful attention to the witnesses and evidence received at trial, as well as my instructions on the law. I thank you all for your commitment to performing this civic duty, and we recognize the sacrifices that you have all made to be here today. We will now begin with the opening statements. Is the government prepared to succeed? Ms. Johnson, that can be you, Tanya. Can y'all hear me? Let me see. Is Tanya here? She fall off. Tanya, you here? Tanya, can you hear me?
Sorry.
Okay. All right. So you're gonna start us off, Tanya.
Okay.
So you can give Miss Johnson. Okay.
Miss Johnson, right?
Yes.
All right. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You may proceed.
Whoa. This is Sean Combs to the public. He was Puff Daddy, or Diddy, a cultural icon, a businessman, larger than life. But there was another side to him, a side that ran a criminal enterprise. You got 10 minutes. During this trial, You are going to hear about 20 years of the defendant's crimes, but he didn't do it alone. He had an inner circle of bodyguards and high ranking employees who helped him commit crimes and helped him cover them up. Kidnapping, arson, drugs, sex crimes, bribery, and obstruction. These are just some of the crimes that the defendant and his inner circle committed again and again. You are going to hear about all of them during this trial. Let's start now with just one night. The defendant was on the hunt for his girlfriend, a woman named Cassie. For years, the defendant physically abused Cassie. He also sexually exploited her, forcing her to have sex with male escorts while he watched and recorded it. But that night, the defendant learned he had lost control of Cassie. He found out Cassie was seeing another man. Furious, he set out to find Cassie and the other man, but he couldn't do it himself. So he took his gun and he took his bodyguard, one of his most loyal lieutenants, to wake up one of the defendant's employees in the middle of the night. The defendant yelled that he was going to kill the man Cassie was with. He demanded that his employee take him to that man's home. The defendant forced the employee out of her apartment and into an SUV. They drove to the house. The defendant and his bodyguard broke in, but no one was there. The defendant didn't give up. He kept looking for Cassie. When he finally found her, he did what he had done countless times before. He beat her brutally, kicking her in the back and flinging her around like a rag doll. All of that violence wasn't enough, though. The defendant had to make sure he had control over Cassie once again, so he threatened her. The defendant told Cassie that if she defied him again, he would publicly release the videos of her having sex with male escorts that he kept as blackmail, souvenirs of the most humiliating nights of her life. This was just one night in the defendant's 2 decades of crime. In one night, he and his lieutenant kidnapped an employee, broke into a man's house, and the defendant beat and blackmailed his girlfriend. And as you will learn, this was just the tip of the iceberg. These are not the only crimes the defendant committed. That's not the only time he kidnapped someone, and Cassie is not the only woman he beat or sexually exploited. For 20 years, the defendant, with the help of his trusted inner circle, committed crime after crime. That's why we are here today. That's what this case is about. 20 years of crime is a lot to cover. So, first, I'm going to walk you through what the evidence in this case will show. Then, I will explain a little bit about the charges. And then, I will tell you how the government will prove that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So, what will the evidence show? You'll learn that the defendant was a musician who created an empire. He had a record label, Bad Boy Records, and other businesses that he ran or controlled. Those businesses made the defendant rich, and he used money and resources from those companies to build his reputation and to feed his every desire. To do that, he relied on an inner circle of people close to him, like his bodyguards, chiefs of staff, and other high ranking employees who ran all aspects of his life. Together, the group worked to promote the defendant's power. They carefully cultivated and guarded his reputation, and they worked to get the defendant everything he wanted. He sometimes called himself the king, and he expected to be treated like one. He expected his inner circle to cater to his every desire, including his sexual desires. For years, the defendant used his inner circle and his company's resources to sexually exploit multiple women, including women he forced and manipulated into having sex with male escorts, meaning men who the defendant paid to have sex with women while he watched. No matter what, the defendant and his inner circle made sure he got everything he wanted. Many times that involved committing crimes together and then covering up those crimes. Those crimes included violent acts, like when the defendant brought his bodyguard and his gun to kidnap the employee I mentioned earlier. But you'll hear about other violence too, like when the defendant's bodyguards kidnapped the same employee another time, forcing her to sit through days of lie detector tests, or when the defendant had a man's car set on fire, or when the defendant dangled a woman over a balcony. You'll see and hear impossible demands. When his employees failed to meet those demands, the defendant threw things at them, threatened them, hit them, or pressured them to take drugs. He even sexually assaulted one of them. You'll also hear how the defendant used his employees to get and distribute drugs. They delivered those drugs whenever the defendant asked, including so he could give those same drugs to the women he was forcing to have sex with male escorts. He transported those women and those escorts across state lines and even out of the country for those sex acts. And he used his inner circle and the vast resources of his business empire to help to arrange those trips and make the women available to him. Let me be very clear on this next point. This case is not about a celebrity's private sexual preferences. The evidence will show that the sexual conduct at issue in this case was coercive and criminal because the defendant made women have sex when they did not want to, because he threatened them, he drugged help, he lied to them, and he even used violence to make them do it. A lot of this trial will focus on just two of those women, Cassie, who I talked about earlier, and Jane. Some of the details of what happened to Cassie and Jane may be hard to hear, but this is what the evidence will show happened. The defendant used lies, drugs, threats, and violence to force and coerce first Cassie and later Jane to have sex with him in front of male escorts. The defendant insisted that the sex occur in a very specific, highly orchestrated way. These sexual performances lasted multiple days and they involved multiple escorts. The defendant called these encounters by different names over the years. First, freak offs, later, Wild King nights or hotel nights. Week after week, the defendant directed freak offs in hotels across the country and sometimes out of the country. At times, the defendant had escorts and the women travel from out of state, so the defendant's staff sometimes organized flights, cars, and hotels. The defendant's businesses paid those expenses. The defendant had particular demands for freak offs. At his direction, the defendant's staff set up the room in advance with supplies, like his preferred lighting, extra linens, and lubricant. His staff remained on call to refresh anything the defendant needed, like cash to pay for the escorts, or anything that or drugs for the women and the defendant. The hotel rooms were dark. The defendant instructed Cassie and Jane how to look, to dress in lingerie, wear tall platform heels, and have manicured white nails. The defendant selected drugs for Cassie and Jane to take, usually MDMA, also known as Molly or ecstasy. Sometimes those drugs made Cassie and Jane sick, but they also made the women more uninhibited and sexually aroused. The defendant fed Cassie and Jane drugs throughout the freak-offs so they could stay awake and perform for him for hours and days at a time. Once an escort arrived, the defendant dictated every step of the sexual activity that followed the same pattern, and he expected the women to enjoy themselves, to appear to. While they did it, the defendant masturbated throughout the freak-offs and often video recorded part of them.
All right, Tanya, take a break.
Okay.
Riri, you jump in now. Or Riri or To Be Black Native, either one of y'all. Both of y'all probably on mute.
Now I want to tell you more about Cassie and about Jane. Cassie was a 19-year-old model, an aspiring singer with a hit song when she met the defendant in 2006. The defendant was 17 years older than her and the head of a record label. Soon, Cassie was signed to a 10-album deal with that label. The defendant pursued Cassie, and within a year, they were dating. They stayed together on and off until about 2018. During that time, Cassie tried to work on her music and in modeling and acting, but the defendant made her turn down many opportunities. Instead, he paid for Cassie's cars, her apartments, and some of her day-to-day expenses. Although Cassie recorded music constantly, the defendant, the head of her record label, had the final say on the music that released. It was never another album. The defendant started abusing Cassie early on. Initially, Cassie fought back, but time and again, the defendant hit Cassie in the head, threw her to the ground, and kicked her and dragged her by the hair. In 2009, the defendant threw Cassie to the floor of the SUV and stomped repeatedly on her face. To hide her injuries, the defendant forced Cassie to stay in a hotel for the next week. He refused to let her leave, and he had a staff check on her to make sure she stayed put. The defendant also introduced Cassie to freak-offs early on. Soon, the defendant made it Cassie's job to find and book escorts for freak-offs. Freak-offs that were happening as often as once a week for days at a time, meaning that for almost half of every week, Cassie was in a dark hotel room, high and awake for days, performing sex acts that she did not want to do on male escorts. Cassie will tell you how she felt. She was choking when the defendant made an escort urinate in her mouth, and how she overdosed at a freak-off when she still had an open wound on her face from the defendant's most recent assault. The defendant's physical attacks on Cassie happened at freak-offs too. As you will see on video during this trial, the defendant hit and kicked Cassie in the hallway at an LA hotel, trying to drag her back to the room where they had been with an escort. We'll talk more about that in the video later. Cassie tried the first freak-off because she loved the defendant and wanted to make him happy. After that, she knew it was not something she wanted to do. But because of the defendant, it became almost everything she did. Because if Cassie didn't do what the defendant wanted, the consequences were severe. Physically, the defendant beat her viciously, exploding over even the tiniest slight and beating her to show her he was in charge. He beat her when she didn't answer the phone when he called. He beat her when she left a freak-off without his permission. He beat her when he thought she took too long in the bathroom. The defendant taught Cassie that defying him could and often would end in violence. And when she tried to run away, he always found her, often with the help of his inner circle. And Cassie's career and livelihood were also in the defendant's hands, something the defendant made clear to Cassie. He told her he could destroy her career by releasing the videos that he recorded of her performing sex acts on dozens and dozens of male escorts. So Cassie knew that failing to please the defendant, refusing his demands, had more than just physical consequences. It had the power to ruin her life. The defendant's control, the defendant's violence, and the defendant's threats. That is how the defendant ensured Cassie could not say no to him. So time and again, when the defendant suggested to Cassie that they have a freak-off, she knew she had no choice but to agree and went to work setting one up. She texted the escorts, arranged for them to come to hotels and put on the performance the defendant wanted. Her livelihood and her safety depended on keeping him happy. Cassie's relationship with the defendant was complicated. You will hear during this trial that both Cassie and the defendant were unfaithful, jealous, and at times angry, but only one of them had power. Only one had control, and that was the defendant. And with that power and with that control, he made Cassie do his bidding in those dark hotel rooms. You'll learn, though, that Cassie was not the only woman the defendant did this to. This was just part of a pattern. Now I want to tell you about Jane. Jane was a single mom who started spending time with the defendant in 2020. The defendant pursued and romanced Jane. He fell in love. Jane, who fell in love with him quickly. Jane was not seeing other men, but the defendant was seeing other women at the time. So his relationship with Jane was not at all public.
Okay, you can pause right there to me. Thank you. Riri, can you hear me? I think you're on mute. Okay.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so for the first few months, their sex life was just for the two of them, and Jane was happy. That was until the defendant introduced Jane to freak offs. One night, when they had already taken drugs and had been having sex for hours, the defendant told Jane about freak offs. Jane agreed to try one, and to make the defendant happy. To her surprise, the defendant said that he would make it happen immediately, that very same night. He took her to the hotel room he took her to the hotel where the room was already set up, and and there was an escort on the way. Jane was nervous, and the defendant directed her step by step. Jane thought the first freak off was a one time wild night. Jane was wrong. The defendant continued asking Jane to have freak offs and promising if she did that they would spend quality time together. They would go on dates together. They would go on trips. That was what Jane wanted more than anything, a real relationship. So she agreed. She helped plan the freak offs and reached out to the escorts, but even though the defendant promised her quality time and trips, he never delivered. They were just lies that he told her to get more nights in dark hotel rooms with escorts. Jane will tell you about those nights in detail and how she wanted the escorts to wear condoms, but many times the defendant did not let them. And Jane will tell you how he had her take drugs to stay awake and aroused for days. Jane tried twice to make it through these nights without drugs. The first time she broke down and she took ecstasy to finish performing for the defendant. The second time, Jane vomited after having sex with one escort. How did the defendant respond? He told her to hurry up and to get back into the room where another escort was waiting. Early on, Jane told the defendant that she didn't like freak offs and that she just wanted to be alone with him. She loved him desperately and wanted a real relationship with him. The defendant did not listen. Feeling stuck and sick of the strangers, and the defendant kept bringing to these hotel rooms, Jane tried to assert herself in small ways. She found two men who performed in pornography, and she invited them to join the freak offs. That way, Jane could at least the choose the other men that she was forced to be intimate with. Like he did with Cassie, the defendant eventually took steps to control James financially. The defendant wanted Jane available to meet with him at a moment's notice, and he discouraged her from working. Jane's income plummeted. The defendant gave Jane money and later started paying the rent for the house that she lived in with her child. That way, when Jane resisted the freak offs and told him over and over that she wanted to stop, he had the power to coerce her back into the hotel rooms. And just as he had with Cassie, the defendant threatened Jane with the videos that he recorded of her engaging in sex acts with the escorts. But the lies, the drugs, and the threats were not the end of it. Not even a year ago today, Jane had the worst day of her life. The defendant came to Jane's house for at the home, excuse me. The defendant came to Jane's house for an at-home date night. She and the defendant argued about another woman that the defendant had been seeing. Jane was upset and jealous. Has spent years in the hotel rooms for forced sex while the defendant took his other girlfriends for dates and trips. Jane hit the defendant and threw things at him. The defendant became enraged. Jane tried to get away from him and hide. She ran to her bedroom and locked the door. He kicked it open. She ran to her bathroom and locked the door. He kicked it open. She ran to her closet and locked the door. He kicked it open. She ran to the guest room and she locked the door. He kicked it open. She tried to run out the front door, but he grabbed her in a chokehold, lifted her off the ground by her neck, and kicked her to the ground. Later that night, they fought again, and just as he had with Cassie, the defendant viciously attacked Jane. He punched her in the face. He kicked her while she was curled in a ball on the ground. He dragged her by her hair and her arm, and he slapped Jane's face so hard that she fell over. When all of this was over, the defendant still did not let Jane be. Instead, he told Jane, "You're not going to fuck up my night." The defendant instructed her to put on an outfit and call up an escort for a freak off. He made Jane cover her black eye and bruises, take the ecstasy pill, and perform for the defendant with the escort. Jane followed his instructions like with Cassie. The defendant's violence had gotten him what he wanted. The defendant's sexual violence did not stop at the freak offs, though. Cassie will tell you about a time when the defendant forced himself on her, having sex with her as she cried and repeatedly told him no. And Mia, an employee who the defendant worked to the bone for years, will tell you about the times that the defendant forced himself on her sexually, putting his hand up her dress, unzipping his pants, and forcing her to perform oral sex, and sneaking into her bed to penetrate her against her will. As I said before, the defendant had the power and the control, endless resources, and loyal inner circle who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. Amidst all this violence, the defendant and his inner circle had to make sure that nothing put the defendant's public image and his power at risk. So as tirelessly as the defendant's inner circle worked to meet the defendant's every need, they also worked to cover up his crimes. Remember the video at the LA hotel of the defendant attacking Cassie during a freak off? You will hear just how far the defendant, his bodyguards, and his chief of staff went to get what they thought was the only copy of the video. The defendant first tried to pay off a hotel security guard with the wad of cash in exchange for his silence. Then the defendant and his chief of staff reached out to a different hotel security guard to broker a deal. In exchange for the video for the hotel, the defendant gave the security guard a brown paper bag full of $100,000 in cash, while the defendant's bodyguard and his chief of staff stood by. This is far from the only time that the defendant's inner circle tried to close rank and to do damage control. You'll hear how the inner circle covered up the defendant's brutal beatings by keeping Cassie in hiding for days. You'll hear about the inner circle contacting witnesses of the defendant's abuse to feed them lies, including even after he knew about the investigation in this case. Again and again, the defendant and his inner circle tried to keep the defendant's crimes out the public view to protect his reputation and to protect his power. That is what the evidence in this case will show. For all of this, the defendant is charged with multiple federal crimes. You'll hear a lot more of the charges at the end of the trial when the judge instructs you on the law and in his instructions control. But for now, there are just a few points that I want to highlight so that you will have context for what you'll hear during this case. First, the defendant is charged with racketeering conspiracy based on his agreement to commit crimes as part of an enterprise. I expect the judge will tell you that an enterprise is a group of people who work together for a common purpose of engaging in conduct, of course of conduct, or over a time.
Okay, go ahead. Riri, take a break. Tanya, you can come back in.
Sorry. Okay. What number line are we on? Sorry. Here
Yep,
you will.
At the top.
Okay.
Yep.
Here you will learn that the enterprise is the inner circle I talked about. The bodyguards and high ranking employees, like chiefs of staff, some of these people came and went over 20 years, but I expect the evidence will show that the defendant was a through line. He remained at the top, running that group, and he always had trusted bodyguards and advisors helping him. Together, they agreed to commit different crimes, including kidnapping and arson, distributing drugs to other people, exploiting employees for labor, and in Mia's case, sex, bribery and obstruction, sex trafficking, and transporting people for prostitution. That's all covered by the racketeering conspiracy charge. The defendant is also charged separately for sex trafficking Cassie and Jane through force, fraud, and coercion. Again, the judge's instructions control, but I expect you'll learn that the fraud includes a lie about a material fact. Coercion includes threats and force includes violence. The defendant is charged with using all three tactics to make Cassie and Jane participate in days long drug fueled recorded sexual encounters with male escorts against their will. Finally, he is charged with transporting Cassie, Jane, and male escorts across state lines for those sexual encounters. How will the government prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of these crimes? You'll hear from witnesses, including Cassie and Jane, two of the defendant's victims. They will tell you how the defendant tried to control their lives, from their homes to their careers, how the defendant used his control over time, his lies, his drugs, his threats, and his violence to force and coerce them into having sex with the male escorts. Cassie and Jane will describe Freak Off for you in painstaking detail. They will tell you some of the most personal and painful experiences of their lives. The days they spent awake in hotel rooms, high on drugs, dressed as characters to perform the defendant's fantasy, just as he directed them to do. You'll also hear from some of the defendant's employees. You'll hear from Mia, who worked as the defendant's personal assistant for years, the employee he sexually assaulted. Mia is just beginning to grapple with the times the defendant forced himself on her sexually. Mia will tell you how she could not talk about what happened to her until recently, how she wanted to take the secret of what the defendant did to her to her grave. You will hear from the employee who the defendant forced into that SUV with a gun, from one of the defendant's chefs and from the other personal assistants. They will tell you they worked punishing hours and days for the defendant, at times without any sleep. They will tell you how the defendant ordered them to buy drugs for him, how they used all the resources at their disposal to make sure the defendant always had everything he desired, how they were expected to keep quiet about what they saw and what they heard in the defendant's homes. You will learn that some of these witnesses and victims, including Cassie, have already received financial settlements from the defendant or have filed lawsuits against the defendant. But these witnesses will tell you that they'd trade any money from the defendant for not having been abused. You will also hear from some of the escorts who participated in freak offs with Cassie and Jane. They will tell you how the defendant directed the sexual activity between the escorts and Cassie or Jane, down to the details of how they touched each other, the specific sex acts they performed, all while the defendant filmed it. You will even hear from an escort who saw the defendant assault Cassie and drag her by her hair during a freak off. In addition to these witnesses, you will see documents. I can bring it up. That prove the defendant's crimes. You'll see records from hotels, car services, and airlines showing the dates and locations when the escorts and women traveled to meet the defendant for freak offs. You will see records of the physical damage the defendant and his freak offs caused, the hotel rooms where he stayed. You will see dozens and dozens of text messages about freak offs, including messages from the defendant to his staff asking for more cash to pay escorts, messages where the defendant tells Cassie what drugs to take and when before a freak off, and messages from Jane to the defendant telling him over and over again that she did not want to do freak offs. And you will see videos of some of the freak offs, the videos the defendant used to blackmail Cassie and to blackmail Jane. Those videos capture just small parts of these days long performances. In them, you can hear the defendant providing direction to Cassie and Jane, and you will. Oops. Ecstasy where they pretend to enjoy themselves because that's what the defendant said he wanted. You will see for yourselves the defendant's violence in its aftermath. You will see a video capturing the defendant brutally beating Cassie during a freak off at an LA hotel. You will see photos of Cassie and her injuries from the defendant's assaults. You will hear from witnesses who saw the defendant assault Cassie or saw injuries he inflicted on her. You will see photos of the damage the defendant did when he kicked in 4 doors at Jane's home. And you will see videos of Jane with bruising still on her face days after the defendant attacked her and forced her to do a freak off not even a year ago. You will see for yourself what the defendant had in his home in March 2024 when they were searched: guns, the defendant's so called med bag full of illegal drugs, and freak off supplies like lubricant and platform high heels. Finally, you will see and hear evidence of how the defendant and his inner circle worked to keep his reputation and his power intact for all of these years. You will see the agreement signed by the hotel security guard barring him from speaking about the $100,000 that the defendant paid him for that hotel security video. You will hear recordings of phone calls when the defendant called Jane after Cassie had filed a lawsuit. You will hear him. You will hear him try to manipulate Jane into saying she wanted to have freak offs. You will hear him interrupt Jane when she pushes back. You will hear the defendant's thinly veiled references to continuing to pay for Jane's home in exchange for her silence, and you will see the text messages the defendant sent to his chief of staff right after talking to Jane to make sure that Jane's rent would still be paid on time. The evidence will come in piece by piece, and it won't always come in chronological order. But by the end of this trial, when you've seen and heard all of the evidence, you will see how it all fits together. You will see how it proves. Can you go up?
Okay, take a break. Tanya, to be, you can jump in. Let me pull us up. Let's go.
That the defendant led and controlled an enterprise that enabled him and others working for him to commit many crimes. How it proves that he forced and coerced Cassie and Jane into sex with male escorts, including by having them travel to other states and countries so those sex acts could happen. And you will see how all these crimes and the empire the defendant controlled were designed to fulfill his sexual desires, to protect his representation, and to keep his power. At the end of this trial, we will have the opportunity to speak with you again. But between now and then, I would ask that you do 3 things. First, please pay attention to the evidence. Second, please follow the judge's instructions on the law. Third, please use and trust your common sense. If you do all that, you will reach the only verdict that is consistent with the law and the evidence in this case, that the defendant, Sean Combs, is guilty.
All right. Who will be presenting opening statements? Let's see. You can start reading Miss Garagos, Ken Johan. Ken Johan, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
All right. I am, Your Honor.
Okay, and if you're on the gallery and you have a device, use this opportunity to silence it or it will be taken.
Good morning. Sean Combs is a complicated man, but this is not a complicated case. This case is about love, jealousy, infidelity, and money. This case is about voluntary adult choices made by capable adults in consensual relationships. This case is about those real life relationships, and the government is trying to turn those relationships into a racketeering case, a prostitution case, and a sex trafficking case. It would not work. Let's start with the basics. The most important things in this courtroom are you and him. At a time when everything in government can feel so uncertain, one thing has remained the same in our justice system, and that is standing between all of us and a criminal conviction. Is a jury of our peers. This is you. You will hear the evidence. You will get to the truth. You will see the witnesses and evaluate them one by one. And finally, the story about this case can finally come out. Why do I say that? I say that because this case is not about what you've heard on the news, read in the news, or seen on social media for the past year and a half. This case is not about what civil attorneys are looking for a payday and trying to make my client out to be. There has been a tremendous amount of noise around this case for the past year, and it's time to cancel that noise and hear and see the evidence that will be presented in this courtroom. It will be crystal clear. The story of Sean Combs is a fascinating one, but it is a human one. We are going to tell you his story over the next 2 months in this courtroom, and you will learn that he is a man who grew up here in New York City, in Harlem, who came from little, but built groundbreaking, lawful businesses. You will hear that he is a wealthy individual, but know that the evidence will show that nobody gave him this money. He worked for it, and no one gave him a dime. It will show that he made every single dollar, recreated a culture, and produced music that I believe you will hear will change the generation. And I believe that the evidence is going to show that this ingenuality is what drew people to Mr. Combs. Witnesses will share with you that Mr. Combs is a fascinating person and that people are drawn to him. Yes, he is famous. Yes, he is wealthy. And that's certainly part of it. But he was charismatic and magnetic and a larger than life figure. If you had any interest in climbing the social ladder at the time and being involved in the music industry, the apparel industry, spirits industry, attending his legendary parties, you wanted to be around Sean Combs. You also wanted to be around him because of the benefits that came along with being with him. As you listen to the evidence in this case, try to remember why that matters. Try to remember why people stayed around him and why it matters. I expect it will matter to you as the jury because he gave people opportunities and he gave people chances to work at his companies. They believed he had a vision that few others had, and for the most part, I believe the evidence will show you that they loved him. Now, I don't think the witnesses would tell you that they always liked what he did or how he behaved. But the real-time text messages that you will review in this case show that the people really loved him. And they believed that by being with Sean Combs, they were part of something special. So by now, you've heard the government say a lot of things about my client. It's time for me to introduce you to him. His name is Sean Combs. You may have heard him by Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Puffy, Diddy, but standing in this courtroom at 55 years old, in the same place he was born and raised, he's going by the same name he was born with, Sean Combs. My name is Tanae Gergagos. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what that is.
We just say Garagos.
Garagos? All right.
It's Garagos.
Garagos? All right. Cool. And I am one of the attorneys honored to represent him.
All right. Can Johan take a break? Come on in, Riri.
The government started their opening statement by telling you this is about a 20-year racketeering influence corrupt organization act enterprise that he committed with his apparent trusted inner circle. The only people in this courtroom who will tell you that they participated in, knew about, or came to an agreement to participating in a racketeering enterprise or are the parties Not one witness will get into this courtroom and will take the witness stand and tell you that they were part of a racketeering influence corrupt organization at Enterprise. And the reason is simple. There was not one. We heard what the government tried to say, that the enterprise is that he used his lawful business to feed his every desire, including sexual ones. This case is about Sean Combs' private, personal sex life, which has nothing to do with his lawful businesses. The government has no place here in this man's private bedrooms. The government said over and over again that this is not his private sex life, but the evidence will show you that it is. The people who will come into this courtroom and testify are people who would know about racketeering enterprises, and these people will all say that they knew nothing about any enterprise. That is because these hardworking individuals were either doing their jobs as personal assistants or as top executives running his successful businesses. There are individuals educated at places from Harvard and Howard University. The prosecution will bring in those same employees and others into this courtroom and have them testify that Sean Combs has a temper. And when he drank or when he did the wrong drugs, he would get violent. My client is not proud of that, but it is one of the many things that we're going to own and fully admit right up front at this trial. Sean Combs has a bad temper. He sometimes gets angry or so jealous that he is out of control. You will see evidence that you will hear some testimony that does not portray my client in a good light. You will hear some text messages, some voice notes, and some witness testimony that may make you think that I don't think this guy is a great guy. I don't like how he just lied to his girlfriends. I don't like the things that he just said in that text messages. I want to tell you now that there may be one point, there may be multiple points in this trial where you think, I think that he's a jerk. I think that he's kind of mean, but he's not charged with being mean. He's not charged with being a jerk. He's charged with running a racketeering enterprise. And though there was violence that you are going to hear about, you already have, the violence is not part of any RICO. That violence is not connected to sex trafficking, and that violence is not prostitution. There was a name in a criminal law. There was a name in a criminal law for the violence that we will hear about and we will see at this trial. It is called domestic violence. It's called assault. Domestic violence is a very serious matter. I want to say that now. It is bad, an illegal problem, and it's something that the law addresses. We take full responsibility that there was domestic violence in this case. Domestic violence is not sex trafficking. I want to say that again. Domestic violence is not sex trafficking. Had he been charged with domestic violence, had he been charged with assault, we would not be here right now. We would not be sitting through an 8-week trial. However, he has been charged with different crimes: sex trafficking, prostitution, racketeering. These are federal crimes with their different statutes. They charge different elements, and he is simply not guilty of those crimes. One of the central themes of my statements to you will be personal accountability, and personal responsibility. As the trial goes on, we will see that as the trial goes on, we will see with each witness, we are going to take that I'm so sorry. We are going to take that on ourselves. We will not shy away from those things that Mr. Combs did, but we will not deny his personal responsibility or own the things that he did not do. We are telling you right now that he is physical, that he is a drug user, and I'm telling you that he had a bit of a different sex life. For example, you have not heard any evidence in this case, but the prosecutors already told you about lubricant. You may know of his love of baby oil. Is that a federal crime? No. You will hear that he got IVs after ingesting drugs. Is that a federal crime? No. He will be responsible. He will be accountable for the things that he did. But we will fight for his freedom throughout the next 8 weeks for what he did not do. And he can't be the only person in this case who accepts personal responsibility and accountability for his actions. The alleged victims who will testify in this case are capable, strong adult women. They were all getting something, each of them wanted from him and from being in a romantic relationship with him. And these adults, capable, strong women will have to take on the same level of personal responsibility for their lives that he's going to take on for his. When any person in life makes an adult choice, that is a free choice. A free choice has pros, it has cons. You may think that they're better choices. You may think that they're worse choices, but that does not eliminate the personal responsibility behind those choices. And each of the women that you will hear from, they all have personal responsibilities and the freedom to make the choices that they made. You will hear from these women. You will see these women. You will meet them. They will sit in the witness chair a few feet away, and you will evaluate them for yourselves. You will see that they are capable. You will see that they are strong, and you will see that they made free choices every single day for years. As you are listening to the evidence and you listen to them testify, I want you to ask yourselves, what are the ways that these individuals had the that this individual had the ability to make that choice? Ask yourself, what are they getting from being with Sean Combs? They are not with him because they are stuck or because they are without a choice. The government will try to show you that Sean Combs is the only one getting something from each of these alleged victims who testify in this case. But with each of these individuals, ask yourself, what is this person getting? They are with him or they are working for him because they are getting something that they want from being with him. Now, with every person, that something may be different, and it usually is. But with each person, they're all getting something. So as you listen to this evidence, watch closely to this role that jealousy plays in this case. We have talked to you, both of us already, about jealousy and how it is persuade as and how it is persuade and present in every single relationship. But I want to also let you know it drives a lot of the choices that the alleged victims make here. Combs is one of these men that I submit to you. We all know the evidence is going to show that he is somebody who never married, but he needs to always have a woman around him. He is a many women man. He has 7 children by 4 different women. And he is the kind of guy who is always in relationships. In fact, he was always in multiple relationships. But critically, he was not always honest about that fact. And you'll find that even when he was, Even when women knew that he was in multiple relationships, this would drive a primal jealousy in people. It would drive a lot of the choices that you are going to see in this case. You are also going to see that Sean Combs is extremely jealous. You might think that it is hypocritical. You might not like it, but you're going to see that he is also extremely jealous. So, as you're listening to the evidence and you're evaluating the testimony, ask yourself, what is causing that fight? The answer is, without exception, jealousy or drugs. The hitting, the things that we're going to take responsibility for, it is typically cause of jealousy or drug use. The role of jealousy here is critical and it is persuasive. The evidence will show you that over the course of the 20 years that we will examine in this courtroom, we'll see the same women over and over. They remained in multiple year relationships with him. And I believe that you pretty much know every relationship that he's had over the past 20 years. Again, that's whether this is as an employee or a girlfriend. You will pretty much know about every girlfriend that he has had. You will see that these women are strong, capable, and that they were in love with him. You will see the breaches of trust, infidelity, and jealousy, and what drove the dramatic violence that you will hear about. You will see that alcohol and drugs played a major role in his temper. The evidence is going to show you a very flawed individual, but it will not show you a racketeer, a sex trafficker, or somebody transporting for prostitution. So, as we said, you're going to hear from two women, Cassie and Jane. This case is, in large part, about his sexual relationship with these two women. And you're going to hear that they went to private hotel rooms to engage in what I expect some witnesses at this case to call the swingers lifestyle, which essentially just a fancier term for threesomes by adults. Sometimes Combs partook in the sex with his girlfriends and the male escorts. Other times that he watched while the male escorts was having sex with his girlfriends. You heard the government call these freak offs. I will expect you will hear that. I expect that you will also hear them call parties and entertainment. You will hear from both Cassie and Jane about these nights. They will testify about their relationships, and you will hear things that should never be heard in a federal courtroom. I think that you've heard that already. You've heard things that may make you uncomfortable at first, that he liked to watch this. You might hear about his kinky sex or his preferences for sex that may make you uncomfortable or may not be what you like to do in your bedroom. But you are not here to judge him for his sexual preferences. You are not here to judge him for all purposes. You are here to evaluate whether the government can prove beyond a reasonable doubt what they actually charged him with, and they cannot. You also heard that in his relationships with both Cassie and Jane, he bought them things. Yes, like every relationship, they got things from their boyfriends. Here, a wealthy rapper paid for their housing. He paid for Cassie's car. He gave them money. These are nice houses that he paid for. It was a nice car that Cassie drove, and they were nice vacations and private planes because he is a wealthy individual. These are vacations that they took together as couples. And as I've said, like every relationship, there was jealousy and there were flaws. But as you evaluate the evidence in this case, remember that he is not charged with being a flawed individual or having a flawed relationship. They did not stay with him over and over again because of force, fraud, or coercion. The evidence in this case will show you that over and over again, day after day, these women fought to be in a relationship, fought to do what they wanted to do in consensual adult relationships. This case started with Cassie. So I think that it's best for me to start there. I expect that you will hear from her this week. She will sit in this witness box and she will tell you about her 11-year relationship with Sean Combs. You heard that they met when she was an up and coming artist. What you didn't hear is that she had a boyfriend at the time. He was in a very public relationship with the mother of 4 of his children named Kim Porter. After the two fell in love and started dating, she broke up with her producer boyfriend. But Combs, for his part, did not break up with Kim. He remained in public relationship with her. And that is something that caused extreme jealousy with Cassie. He continued that relationship with Kim Porter until her tragic, untimely death from pneumonia in 2018. This is important because as you look at the evidence and as you evaluate Cassie and Combs' relationship, you will see that their fights, their cheating, their jealousy, it typically surrounded his cheating or it surrounded hers. This is something that plagued their relationship until the very last day. The evidence will show you that he is extremely jealous of Cassie's actual or perceived infidelities. And she was uncontrollably jealous of his. This led to a toxic relationship between two people that I expect the evidence will show deeply loved each other. Perhaps they did not always show love to one another the way that you would with your partner, but they were in a relationship and she was not being trafficked. You will see that over and over in this decade long relationship, these two fought about his inability to remain faithful. I expect Cassie to tell you about the jealousy of Kim Porter and other girlfriend that he started dating in 2014 named Gina. This jealousy is something that plagued their relationship. Even the day of the Intercontinental video in the elevator bank that much of you told us during the jury selection that you saw.
All right. So thank you, Riri.
Yep.
Tammy, go ahead. Tammy, you jump back in.
Yes. Okay.
That day.
Sorry.
Okay. Right at the
That
top.
day, that day, unfortunately, jealousy was on full display. And in combination with the bad drugs that I expect Cassie to testify that Combs took, it led to domestic violence in the elevator bank. This assault happened almost 10 years ago on March 5th of 2016. I expect that we are all going to see this video many, many times throughout this trial. You are going to see it later today, and I expect you to see it many more times throughout this week. You're going to see it a lot. But I want to start by saying 2 things. First, what Combs did to Cassie on this videotape is indefensible. It is horrible. It's dehumanizing. It's violent. It's virtually every bad word you can think of. And while it is dehumanizing and violent and terrible, the second most important thing is that it is not evidence of sex trafficking. It is evidence of domestic violence. You will see that it is also evidence of the central theme in this case, which is jealousy. That's what this videotape shows you. As you watch it later today, and as you watch it throughout the week, I want you to look for 2 things. The first part is Cassie walking out of the hotel room, walking down the hallway. She is carrying 2 bags, and you see that she makes it to the elevators, and then Combs comes down wearing only a towel. He pulls Cassie by the hoodie, and she falls to the floor. He kicks her in the backside, and he stomps her on the back of her leg, and he starts to drag her by her hoodie back to the hotel room. You will see him walk away momentarily with her bags, and you will see this. Then he comes back around and walks towards her, and she is kind of in the left part of the screen. When he comes towards her, he has nothing in his hand, and when he walks away from her, you will see an illuminated phone in his hand. He wanted this phone and he got it. Please understand that this video is overwhelming evidence of domestic violence, but it's overwhelming evidence that this domestic violence is over a phone and not because of sex trafficking. What causes a fight about a phone? We can all use our life experiences to show us that. Phones keep the secrets of infidelity, and you will hear that there was another fight even later that year, again about a phone. I'm not justifying the assault, not by a long shot, but I'm putting it in proper context because you will see that as soon as he gets the phone, he sits down. He's visibly disgusted. He broke a vase and he threw flowers and stayed away. The video has a second part. Cassie calls security from the hotel phone. The security officer comes to the floor, and I expect you will hear from him later today. Combs is sitting in the chair, slumped over. He's holding his head in his hands, and the security officer tells them to leave the public area of the hotel where they are making a commotion. You will see Cassie turn to Combs and gesture to her. And pay attention to the words that I think you will see her say to him, which is, "Get back to the room." Two parts, both of them important, and both of them important to show that Combs assaulted Cassie. But you can't stop there because he is not charged with assault. Is it because of sex trafficking, as the government is going to argue to you, or is it because of something else? I expect the evidence, even just this week, will show you that the fight was over a phone. These two stayed together 2 more years after this incident. And to understand how and to understand why is to understand how this relationship ended. You'll hear that even in 2018, these two were fighting to stay together. But the evidence will show you that in the summer of that year of 2018, she woke up to a gossip site that showed a photo of Combs and Gina, the same woman who he had started having an affair with in 2014, or a relationship with, I should say, walking out of the Standard Hotel together. Cassie could not come back from it. She could not give him another chance. And instead, she made the choice, as she often did when he was caught in public with Gina, to break up with him and date another man. For Cassie, she made a choice every single day for years, a choice to stay with him, a choice to fight for him. Because for 11 years, that was the better choice. That was her preferred choice. And so she made the choice to stay with him until one day she decided she was going to break up with him because that was her preferred choice. So it's important for you to remember as you evaluate the evidence because she was not coerced to continue or engage in this sex life with Sean Combs. When she made the decision to leave, there were no repercussions, as the government hinted. She made the choice to leave. She communicated it to him and she ran into the arms of another man, a physical trainer who Combs had hired to train her. So I will ask you, ladies and gentlemen, pay close attention to the messages, the real-time communications between these two individuals, and the messages surrounding their breakup. Does Combs release the videotapes the government was just talking about? No, he doesn't. You will hear that the government raided 2 of his homes. You have already heard that over a year ago. They seized countless electronic devices. The only freak-off videos you will see or hear about at this trial came from her devices that she kept for 5 years. So when the government talks about power and control, who had the power? Who had the control? The government did not find any freak off videos with Cassie on those devices. And so going back during the time of Cassie and Combs' breakup, Cassie is already dating her now husband. She is with him for months as she is breaking up with Combs, all while telling Combs she still loves him. And then in November of 2018, Kim Porter tragically passes away from pneumonia. Knowing that Combs would be distraught and wanting to be there for him, she did everything she could to be there. She came to memorial service at his home. She flew to Kim's home state of Georgia to be at the funeral. Don't lose the sight of the fact that amidst a breakup, all the way at the end of 2018, she flew to a funeral service to be there for him and support him and his family during this trying time of their life. And at the service at their home, Combs, to a group of loved ones, former employees, and others, and to many people on social media who were paying respects, said, and I quote, Kim was my soulmate. In Cassie's presence for everybody to hear, he said, she was my soulmate. The end of the relationship between Cassie and Combs is important, and I want you to focus on the evidence of how and why it ended. When Combs publicly said Kim Porter was his soulmate to all the people around him who were there for the first time, maybe ever, Cassie realized all things she would not be. I expect many witnesses at this trial to tell you she wanted to be Combs' wife. I expect even she may tell you that. That is what she spent 11 years trying to get. And in one day, it became clear to Cassie she was never going to be that. And if she was never going to be Combs' wife, if she was never going to be the love of his life, then she would leave. And that is what she did on her terms, her choice, for reasons that, for her, were the right reasons. This is where bringing personal experience to this jury matters. This is something we all have been through. That one life event you can point to where you can say that is when I knew it was over, because that is what this was for her. Because this was a relationship, although toxic at times, like every other relationship, it was not based on coercion. It was not based on force. At a certain point, you know you're not going to get what you need from that other person, and you leave. After Kim's funeral, they never saw each other again. The very first time that this former couple will see each other after 6.5 years of a breakup is in this courtroom later today or tomorrow. We are all going to witness their closure, and that is because she moved on with her life and he moved on with his. You will see that she married the trainer, she had 2 children with him, and she's pregnant with her third. And Combs also moved on with his life. As you listen to her testimony, as you read her messages closely, evaluate that Combs' intent was at the time, evaluate what he understood about what she wanted during those 11 years that they spent together. What he understood, I expect the messages to show you, was that she was a willing participant in their sex life. That was a voluntary adult choice by 2 capable adults. What Cassie may testify to this week, 6 years after a breakup, is not a match for the real time evidence that you will have. The real time text messages I urge you to read. Evaluate his intent, which is the only thing that matters here. The government also talked to you a lot about Jane. She is the other woman that the government alleges Combs sex trafficked. She was his girlfriend of 3 years, and she comes into his life several years after the Cassie breakup. I think you will find in the evidence, is a little bit different in 2020 and 2021 than he was when he was dealing with Cassie. And I think the most important reason you will see is that he was more upfront about his dating life. Rather than saying that he was only dating one person, he was very upfront with Jane. I expect her to tell you that he was dating multiple different women.
Okay, thank you very much, Tanya. King Johan, you can jump back in, bro. You might be on mute. King Johan, you there? Okay. To be, you could jump back in, please.
However, I started my opening statement. This did not stop the jealousy. Jane's relationship with Combs was plagued by jealousy. Their relationship was not the 11-year public romance that Combs and Cassie had. The problem is that Jane wished that it was. The government told you that their relationship was not public. You're going to hear from Jane why that was. There were many different reasons why that was. And so, after a period of time, their relationship became primarily sexual. Jane is also older than Cassie was when she started dating him, and she was living her own life in a different state, raising her child. She is a capable, strong adult woman, and you're going to hear, as I expect, that you've already heard, that pretty soon after her relationship with Combs started, he brought up the idea of whether she would want to have sex with another man. Again, like a consensual threesome. And Combs would watch. She agreed, and they went.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. She agreed, and they went to a private hotel room away from his employer, away from family, and I expect that she will testify that she enjoyed that night. She laid down in the couch after she said to herself, like, wow, I can't believe I just did that. And you will see that Combs really began to lose these hotel nights with her.
Love.
Really, I'm sorry, began to love these hotel nights with her. And I expect that she will testify that she began to do everything possible to make those nights incredible for Combs. That includes finding the best male entertainment to join them, to wear the outfits he would find the sexiest, and saying all the things during these nights that would excite him. I expect she will testify she did this because she loved him. She was desperate to spend time with him, to be with him, and ultimately to give him something none of the other girlfriends that he was dating at the time were giving him. She will tell you that she tried many times to change the of the tenure of the relationship from one of a purely sexual nature to something maybe deeper or more meaningful. I'm not sure exactly how she will put that to you, but she will testify that it always came back to what they would call parties, which were these nights in hotel rooms. And the evidence will show that she did it over and over again for 3 years because she made the choice. And this became their time together. This became their sex life. And I expect that she will testify that she realized that if she didn't have these hotel nights with Combs, they may not get their alone time together, which is time she deeply craved.
Thank you so much, to be King Johan. Can you jump on, brother?
Yeah, right here at one.
I expect. Yep.
Okay. I expect she will tell you that she kept coming back over and over again because she did it for affection. She did it for the love, for the cuddle, and because she knew it would make him happy. And she wanted more than anything to make him happy. She was unable to resist him emotionally, and her desire to be with him outweighed all other considerations of hers. The government told you about a phone call they had in November of 2023. I expect the evidence will show you that even after this phone call, she continued. She flew out to see him many more times and continued willingly engaging in these nights. The evidence is going to show you a toxic and dysfunctional relationship between these two individuals. And you may think to yourself, wow, he is really a bad boyfriend. But the evidence is going to show you that she is a capable, strong woman who willingly engaged in their sex life so they could spend time together. This is simply not sex trafficking. I expect her to testify that she was a willing participant. And being a willing participant in your own sex life is not sex trafficking. I expect her to also testify there were nights she engaged in the sex because she hoped that she can turn their relationship from one of more sexual relationship into something more. And she will testify that if she walked away, she would have lost him. That is not something she was willing to do. And as I said, you will see her jealousy on full display at this trial. And you will see that she was willing to engage in these nights with Combs. And then she would be on social media after, and you will see he was with another one of his girlfriends, either out to dinner or traveling, and she would send messages with regret afterwards. These are born out of jealousy, which was the root of their troubles. And regret does not mean that she was coerced. Her jealousy drove her to make those moves, but make the moves that she made. As I said, every single witness in this case had free choice to make the choices that they made. The jealousy of other women in Combs' life was one of hers. Seeing the other woman that he would be on social media posts with or otherwise drove her to try to be in the first place and made her more desirous desirous of their time together. Desirous, my bad. This is one this was the way to get there, and the evidence will show you that that is simply not a crime. The government also told you about a night a year ago where Jane hit Combs. Once again, as I said, this was a night born out of jealousy. You were here, you've already heard, um, you already heard that he also hit her back. But you didn't hear was the start of the fight. She was overcome by jealousy that night. She slammed his head down on the kitchen counter. This is how the fight started. I do not want to justify this night. I do not want to justify the assault. But I am simply here to tell you that the evidence will show that it started because she slams his head on her kitchen counter. And you are also going to hear that less than a month or approximately a month after this assault, an incident of domestic violence at her home, she flew to Combs' home in Miami. She called an escort and had what I expect her to say was one of her best hotel nights that she had with one of their regular escorts. Now, during the testimony of both Cassie and Jane, I expect the government is going to put in a bunch of videotapes of the so-called freak-offs or hotel nights or wild king nights, however you would like to call it, into evidence. These videotapes depict what we've been telling you about. Sean Combs, one of his girlfriends, and a man. These videos, we believe, are powerful evidence that the sexual conduct in this case was consensual and not based on coercion. But I want you to say one thing to you now. But I want to say one thing to you now. Some of you may find them hard to watch, not because they're violent, not because they're non-consensual, but because they were never meant to be seen by people outside of that room. They are, in one word, intimate. And they were always meant to remain that way. The reason these videos will be seen by you is because the government has chosen to take possession of these videos and to put them into evidence in a federal courtroom. Playing these videos will feel invasive, but the government has charged him with sex trafficking. And the evidence of the alleged sex trafficking is on those videos. This is why you have to see them. You may hear about other women. The government told you about someone named Maya, for example. I urge you to pay attention to these other women's real-time communications with Combs. You ask yourself, why are they making this allegation now? What is their motive? You will conclude, like you will with every single other witness in this case, that everybody who testifies has a motive.
Okay, thank you, brother. Riri, you want to come back in?
All right. And everyone has a motive. What line are we on? I'm sorry. I moved the
Top.
screen. Okay, with Mia. With Mia, for example, I asked you to evaluate her motive when you listen to her testimony. What are the reasons that she's saying what she might be saying now? What she never said before, and certainly never said when she first started cooperating with the government. And certainly never said when she first started cooperating with the government. This is someone that you should evaluate her messages carefully. One of the unbelievable love for Combs throughout her employment. You are also going to hear from several other past employees of his. They will try to paint a picture for you of a hostile workplace. And as I said, with nearly every single witness in this case, when these people testify, ask yourself, why did anybody, if they were so scared and if this was so hostile, ever call the police? Why not? I expect that the evidence will show you that the testimony against him, their former boss, for many, not all, is vindictive, or they are being subpoenaed to give it. Like every other witness, ask yourself, what is something? What is the reason that they stayed? You will find with every single person, they had a something. So when you hear from the witness who testified here, who will they tell you that they were victimized? And you will ask yourself, what is your motive? For many of them, the answer is simple: money. This criminal case started because of Cassie, not because she went to law enforcement with her allegations, but because she filed a public lawsuit against Combs in November of 2023. At this time, when she was having financial trouble and living in her parents' modest home in Connecticut with her family, rather than go to law enforcement about what had allegedly happened to her, she went to a civil lawyer who is here today. I expect that this trial, from nearly every witness that you hear from, they will tell you that instead of going to law enforcement after either their employment ended for the alleged victims, they went to a civil lawyer for a money grab. They will claim that they were so afraid of this man that they could, of course, not go to the police because he was so powerful. But they were not so afraid that they could not go to a civil lawyer to make money demands against him. Demands for unbelievable amounts of money, more than any of us have ever made. Cassie, for example, will tell you that she first made a demand on Combs for $30 million. Another witness will tell you that in the breach of a contract case, she made a demand for $22 million. And as you listen to these witnesses, and there will be many, as the prosecutors have told you, who made civil demands against him, I want you to ask yourself, how many millions of reasons do these witnesses swearing to tell the truth and nothing but the truth have to lie? How many hundreds of thousands of reasons does these witnesses swearing to tell the truth and nothing but the truth have to lie? Will you really believe that these people have demanded an unimaginable amount of money from Mr. Combs, would have traded all of that to not have been abused? Because if that's the case, I submit to you, you will consider, why did they never go to law enforcement? So, in closing, the evidence will be framed to prove from the government. They will attempt to prove racketeering, influence, and corrupt organization act charge, 2 sex trafficking charges, 2 prostitution counts. The evidence that you will hear at this trial will not make out any of them. The conspiracy charge is that Combs allegedly committed 2 counts of acts of kidnapping, 1 act of arson, a bribery, and obstruction of justice, forced labor, and drug trafficking. I'm going to take this briefly in turn, and then I'm going to ask you to evaluate the evidence by the witnesses who will testify about these acts. First, he did not commit any of these acts. In terms of the alleged bribery and the obstruction of justice, this relates to the Intercontinental hotel incident that we talked about this morning. You will hear, as you already did, that he paid money to a security guard at the Intercontinental so that the footage would go away. This was solely related to preventing bad publicity for both Combs and Cassie. It had nothing to do with obstructing law enforcement investigation. No law enforcement investigation existed. Period. That is that is requirement. That is a requirement. And so the evidence will show you he simply did not commit those acts. As to kidnapping and arson, I submit to you, you are not going to find that there is any kidnapping. And he was simply not involved in any alleged arson. The government told you that the kidnappings relate to one employee. Who am I telling you the evidence will show worked for Combs for almost a decade? As you listen to her testimony and evaluate, was this person actually kidnapped? I expect that the evidence is going to show you that even after criminal investigation into Combs started, she asked to work for him again 12 years after her employment ended. 12 years after she claimed she had been kidnapped the last time. Now, more than a decade after these kidnapping acts. And so the evidence is going to show you that he is simply did not commit them. As to the drug trafficking, I submit the evidence is going to show you that the drugs are personal use drugs for him and at times the women that he's with. And these drugs have nothing to do with an enterprise. As to the forced labor, you will see that Combs worked hard. His employees worked hard, but they were there to do something great and novel for his lawful business. It was not forced. Being there was an adult. Free choice, like everything else in this case. Second, the RICO conspiracy requires a group effort, even if the group is two people, and there will be no evidence of that. So, as you're listening to the evidence, ask yourself, who is Combs actually conspiring with to violate the Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organization Act? The answer will be no one. Finally, the last of these charges I will talk to you about are two counts that charged him with causing interstate travel for the purpose of prostitution. For him to be guilty, I expect that the judge will tell you that he had to intentionally engage in what he knows to be prostitution. What the evidence is going to be is that he is paying different men for their time and experience. Think about the pornography industry, for example. Actors in pornographic movies are paid for their time, and generally they have sex. Otherwise, it wouldn't be pornography. You also hear about many companies. I expect that you'll hear from one later today called Hulkamania, a company called Cowboys for Angels that advertise online across the country where you can pay money for time and an experience. These escort companies are common and they do not advertise themselves as money for sex. They advertise themselves as money for time and money for the experience. And that is what Sean Combs was doing. He was paying money for that experience. So, in closing, I'm asking you once again to listen carefully to all of the evidence. You are not here to judge or impose your moral beliefs onto this man. You are here as a jury of his peers to determine whether the government can meet its burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed these crimes. When you hear the evidence, you will go back into the jury room and evaluate the evidence in light of the crimes that are actually charged here. You will return the only verdict that the evidence demands, and that is he is not guilty of these crimes.
All right, at this time, I think it's appropriate for us to take a lunch. We are going to take a little bit longer of a break today because I think that some of the folks in the jury office and the marshal service have things to discuss with our jurors. It is now 12:13. We will be back at 1:15, and we will make some adjustments to the courtroom. So just remember, during lunch, you do not have discussions with each others about the case, and don't look up anything on this case. Do not have any discussions with anyone about this case, and no one here in the courtroom or outside of it to have any discussions with the jurors. However, with that, all rise for the jury. Okay, y'all, that's gonna be a wrap for today. Great job.
Woo!
Job. Great job, man. So as we do in the past, we chit chat a little bit and we just talk about what y'all's initial. So we've heard from the prosecution, we've heard from the defense. Who would you say you side with more? Like, was there anything that the defense said that made you look at the prosecution a little different?
The one thing I say is they really they putting, and I kind of put this in the chat, they throwing all the known knowns out there, like, and they already trying to build up their defense as to why he was doing this or why he was doing that, by him being under the influence and drinking and drugging. If that's the case, he would have spiraled. He would have had a public spiral. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wouldn't be able to conduct himself in public. He would look like a dope head. Like,
right.
a doper is a doper when you see one. So they really trying to put that off on that and trying to lean that to him not being in the right state of mind. But by him being having so much of being in a controlled atmosphere, because he knew when to be like that and when not to be like that. So that says you got more of a
control.
Yeah, like, it's more. It ain't just you tripping out your mind. Like, nah, you know when to be.
Belligerent.
Yeah. So it's making it worse. You know what I mean? It's really making it more so even worse, because now it's showing like you're competent. You're totally competent, and it actually, like, now you're in the mindset of being. You're more like serial. It's like you're a sociopath now. Because it's like, okay, yeah, I'm finna go do this interview. I'm finna go take care of this. I'm finna go do this, little event in about an hour or two. I'm finna get on some real freaky stuff. It's about to get crazy. Like, you already got it planned out. You know what I mean? So everything is intentional. So in your mind, and it's a mental control thing. It's like pimps.
What's your thoughts?
Well, the prosecution, they started out good, but then it just seems like the prosecution is more about the freak offs and Cassie, and they're not really showing Cassie that he beat her up, but like they said, it's domestic violence. Why didn't they charge for domestic violence? Because it's federal. And it seems like because this is the Fed's case, they're trying to prove that it makes Cassie look like she was the one doing the trafficking because she had to find the guys and stuff. But
Mm.
then what enlightened me a little about the defense is that those two companies provide a service. So it wasn't like because when I think of sex trafficking, I think of you bringing people like they have the expression they got flued in. Did they get flued in?
Mm. Yeah, they got flown in.
Yeah. Flew in.
Yeah, they got flown in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So isn't that trafficking
It's
when they get
trafficking.
flued
Yeah.
in?
State lines. You go from one state to another state for the
Mhm.
purpose of sex, which they were.
Mhm.
And it seems as though that Sean Combs was maybe he knew to put her in that position of where she was the one ordering them and paying them because he wanted to keep himself away from.
Right. It makes her look more like the sex trafficker than any to me.
Right. And then he could say, well, they was doing it because they wanted to please me. I didn't tell them to do it.
Right.
She was just bringing them in here that she chose. One day she chose 2 men to bring in here. I didn't even know who they was. She just wanted to show me how much she wanted to be with me. Ugh. Yeah, Tay said, said, but the service they provide is illegal. Yeah. I guess depending on where you at, because I don't think it was in Vegas, but in Vegas it's legal to do that.
Right. It's Vegas out there. It's
Riri.
legal out there.
Yeah. Riri, what's your take?
Well, I say this. I want to touch on base what King Johan said, as well as 2B. King Johan, as far as the drugs, I think that sometimes you have drug addicts that, especially when you look at it in the entertainment industry, and even just in real life, you have drug addicts that are and alcoholics that are functioning alcoholics and functioning.
That's true. That's true.
And I think that he definitely fit that category, because Cassie even admitted that she was strung out on drugs. And then as far as Cassie and her participation, as far as Cassie and the abuse and the domestic violence, as 2B was saying, I look at it like this. What is a pimp and what is a pimp? He makes the women fall in love with them. He abuses them. He get them strung out on drugs, and he put them out there on the corner. And that's what Diddy did. You know what I'm saying? That's what he did. He couldn't call these different escort agencies. Everybody knows that man's voice. Somebody's going to put that together, that this is Diddy that's calling. So he has to have somebody else that's calling and setting up those appointments, And then even like some people want to say, well, Cassie participated in it. She was a willing participant. She was doing this because she loved the man. She was abused by this man. And look how many other women stay in relationships for a long time with a man that don't have no money, has nothing to offer him, but they're abusing him, and they stay there still because it's not about the money. It's about how they have taken over their mind and how they have put them so down so much and really lowered their self-esteem, And as the women too taking that abuse, they start lowering their own self-esteem, So I think that Cassie, yeah, she did it. But then also, if you think about the sex trafficking, she's also stated that we're going to come to find out, reading the testimony, that what they were saying, if it's true, that there were also men that they took, and some places that they went to, those men traveled with them. So when people want to take Cassie out the sex trafficking, they're still sex trafficking because he still took other escorts out the country in order to have sex with her and whoever else he was with.
You know what's crazy? I just thought about is, and this is stuff that the only way you find out about it is by reading the transcripts. I didn't know that Jane Doe smashed his head into the counter. I didn't know
that either.
I didn't know about that. So I mean, and then Cassie to say she snapped one day and beat him and threw stuff at him, and I don't mean no harm, but I don't know. And ladies, y'all might say, "Atmos, you delirious," but I don't know too many people that are in fear of their life in a domestic violence situation is going to respond with beating on the guy and throwing stuff at him and then still stand with him for another 2 years.
And knowing how he's gonna react to that.
Knowing how he's gonna react to that. So they knew that he will only go but so far, even to them showing domestic violence back towards him. That's eye-opening to me, because you see how small like Cassie is, how skinny she is, the way he was just slinging her around. She had to have some type of knowledge that he would not go but so far, even if she hit and threw stuff at him. And that's where it does the defense's stance that it was a domestic violence, jealousy, tit for tat. He going out with girls, she get mad. She go get other dudes, he get mad. They fight, drugs involved.
Drug induced.
The way the defense is trying to paint this, it taps more into relationships of today. And you hate to say it, but the relationships that have domestic violence in them, they are going to be able to relate to this a lot more than people who've never dealt with it. Now, my first initial train of thought was, you see the video, you hear about the men urinating in her mouth and her choking on their urine and stuff like that. You see the, I'm just, it's crazy, but it's true. Now, and then you hear about her, but then you hear about this other stuff she was doing too. It's really looking like a back and forth, tit for tat, 11-year on and off domestic violence, crazy. I love you, you love me. I got money, you got crazy relationship. And now I'm really starting to wonder if they can really prove some of these things that it does make you wonder why they don't have domestic violence as one of the charges.
Yeah, that'll be a little bit more.
That's go ahead.
Do you think that the feds are, because they are the ones who invaded him, you think that it has holds more federal charges are higher? They trump state charges, if I'm not.
Yeah, because that domestic violence, they can plead down to that to where he get classes, treatments, drug counseling, and all that other stuff. It wouldn't hold as much, as sad as it is, it wouldn't hold as much weight in court.
That's what I'm saying.
But I don't think domestic violence is a federal case. I think
it's not.
It's not.
Okay. So where would his actions towards her fit into the charges that he has? Or are they just not even worried about that? They're more so focused on trying to prove a RICO.
I think it goes into prostitution and sex trafficking, because anytime you have a pimp, he's always beating up on his, what they call a hoe.
Yeah.
He's always beating up on her. He's always got her drugged out, and he's always putting her out there.
Tay said that they have the statute of limitations probably has ended.
Yeah. See, it's and I also see it's like it's gonna be, if they doing it the right way, they will have to use the same tactics, or not so much, I don't want to say tactics. They will want to use the same thing that they did with R. Kelly, though, because all this other stuff, everything that he's doing, he got other people doing it. You know what I mean? So it's, it's other like that's stuff that's coming. Him tracking and knowing where she at and this, and or keeping an eye on her. Like that take money, which is coming from his funds, and you have to employ people to do that.
And they're paying off the Intercontinental.
Right.
They did that.
Yeah.
The staff did that.
Yeah, and then you have to think about this too. Like what you were saying, the statute of limitation. RICO takes that away. because now they can bring up all the other different types of crime. It did not necessarily have to do with a RICO charge. So the domestic violence doesn't necessarily have to do with the RICO charge, but they can bring that up to show you what type of person that he was and how all of that came into effect with the RICO. Because RICO, you don't have the statute of limitation, and RICO gives you RICO takes that statute of limitation off, so that they can be able to bring forth all the different crimes and all the different acts that he has committed into this case. That's what they did, and how that was like one example of how they did it with the YSL case. And they were going back 10, 12 years on different crimes, and even crimes that they had already done, but they were able to bring that forth as evidence. So that's one of the things with the domestic violence with the RICO. It allows them to bring that domestic violence in to show what type of person that he was, and that these people were afraid of him, because then that goes with the coercion. That they were terrified of him, so they continued to do what it was that he wanted to do. Not just Cassie and not just the women, but the men that's going to get up and speak about it too.
I was just going to say, do y'all think they're going to bring up the one friend and his son that he shot that?
Yeah, the studio.
Got shot in the bathroom at the studio, whatever that was.
I hope so.
They should.
And we haven't really heard from that person, so I'm pretty sure we might be able to get
pop in there.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If you get subpoenaed, you can't say nothing at all previously.
Right. Right.
Hey man, this is crazy part about it. This is R. Kelly on steroids. This dude crazy.
Oh yeah,
man.
Honestly, y'all, he makes R. Kelly look like a rookie.
For real, like, hey, I really wasn't doing nothing. This is
it really makes you think like, damn, 30 years for R. Kelly?
Man, man.
Something though. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Well,
crazy.
Hey, what's up, Lady E? How you doing? Everybody, hey, Joel Small, how you doing? The Beat Junkie, what's up? So, y'all, this is listen. We're gonna get back after this. I'm thinking we'll take a break tomorrow, come back on Wednesday night, and continue where we left off at. But everybody that's here, I'll let y'all have y'all final words before y'all get off here. I want to thank everybody for coming on. We are gonna get through these things and really put the truth out here. Right? It don't get no more truthful than the words coming directly from the people. That's actually in the courtroom. So, to be, what are your last words for the night?
Thank you for letting me be a part of this. I even though some of the stuff is gross, so far I'm not triggered by anything. So I'll just continue and pray before I get on, so that I can keep up and read and see the screen and stuff.
Oh, it's gonna get worse.
Oh, it's gonna get worse.
It's gonna get worse. There's gonna be some things that's probably that we're gonna.
Well, I didn't already heard the transcripts from the other content creators, so I know it's gonna get worse. And I some of it I've already been triggered about, but reading it yourself is two different things.
It's totally different when you're reading it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
when you hear about it like on the news or something like that, it's like, oh, that's hard. When you're reading it, it's a way different. Thank you so much to Be Black Native for coming on and doing this, and I look forward to you coming back.
I will come back.
Thank you. Riri. Thank you. Good night,
everybody. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Riri, what's your last words?
One thing that I want to go out and I want to say, because I think a lot of misconceptions that a lot of men quite don't understand. Me being a retired hairstylist, I talked to a lot of people in the past, a lot of women coming in and out of shops. I did hair for over 30 years. Also worked in the entertainment industry and seen this craziness from a lot of these celebrities. But what people think, if you haven't been through physical abuse and you haven't been in domestic, any kind of domestic violence, you just don't really quite understand what these women are going through. Some of them might fight back. You know what I'm saying? Some of them might not fight back. Some of them might be scared. I've also been in a domestic abusive relationship, but the only difference between mine is I never stayed. You know what I'm saying? The day that it happened, I fought back.
Mhm.
You know, and we both ended up in jail because of the fact that I fought back, and we both had there was both signs, but I ended up winning the restraining order, you know, once I was able to prove my case and to show them my evidence. But I just want you guys to know, as men, that the way that you guys think about things is totally different than the way a woman would think about things. And a woman's going to think about things when she's in that relationship. You know, I never was around my parents are still together. They just celebrated 59 years, you
Wow.
know, earlier this month. I
That's
never seen any of my uncles, my aunt, my uncles, my grandfather, my dad. I never seen anybody be abusive. So that was the reason why it was so easy that when it happened to me, for me to walk away. But there's a lot of people that don't understand that. A lot of these women, they think that that's love, you know, and that's the only way that they can be loved. So we can't really judge what they're gonna, if they said that they've been abused, even though that they might have fought back, or even though they might have stayed in it. We can't take that away from them and say that they didn't,
Yeah.
you know, and that was not real. That was not a real scenario for them of what they experienced. So
Well,
I just wanted to make that kind of clear, because I know a lot of people don't get that perspective.
thank you for educating us.
But I love y'all.
No,
Thank
you too.
you. I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
you're back.
appreciate you.
And I just want to give you your props because you always come with them voices.
Man, trying, man. Them things be hard. But you talking like that for an hour or so, you like start mixing. You start sounding like you African, like you from Kenya, like you from Mexico, you from everywhere. Because that's not our original language.
You know, I was thinking you were sounding like was from Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad.
Ah, for a little bit, it
It
did
was
go in
getting
there.
crazy, man.
Yeah,
It was getting crazy.
yeah.
It was getting.
But
I
I
appreciate
see,
you, Riri.
no problem. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Wednesday. We're gonna be up Wednesday. We're gonna do
Okay.
Wednesday at 9:00.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. See you back. All right, Johan, go ahead and close us out, bro.
It's and I keep going back to the R. Kelly thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's gonna like that is this is just gonna be a domino effect of what's coming. You know what I mean? Like who else was, you know what I mean? Like you hang around these people long, like you in these circles and y'all hang around each other enough. A lot of that stuff start, you know what I mean? You're not gonna kick it with somebody. Yeah, you're not gonna kick it with nobody. Like if I smoke and you don't smoke, you ain't gonna keep kicking around me and not end up smoking.
Like, man, go on somewhere. Like
right, you know what I'm saying?
Now.
Right, you know what I mean? You know, if you doing some weirdo stuff, I mean, y'all gotta have, you know what I mean? Like I said, freaks of a feather freak together. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
You know, it's just really putting a more of a light on it, on really what's really going on behind closed doors. You know what I mean? Especially being in the industry. You know what I mean? And by you not having sometimes people being so eager to want to be involved and get into this and don't really have no looking for that validation. I mean, sometimes you'll get into some situations the way you really ain't built for.
You ain't built for.
You know
and
what
then
I mean?
you're trying to fit in, get in where you fit in just because you want to be around that circle.
Yeah.
So they might be like, who is this? Who the hell is this? They pretty wild. Let them hang around.
Right. You know what I mean?
Right?
People just don't start off doing coke and pills. Nah, you know what I mean? You're around somebody who doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's you know what I mean, it's always a pleasure. You know, we've been chopping it up. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Man, listen, we about to do this sports thing too,
yeah,
bro.
Yeah.
Man. Let's set it up. We'll chop it up either tomorrow or following day, but definitely Wednesday night we're gonna come back here, bro. And all right, man. I appreciate you coming on, bro.
All the time, brother. It's all love.
Right, blessings. Y'all listen. This was a great live. I appreciate everybody that came back to rock out with us tonight. If you enjoy what we do, hit the like button, because that'll let YouTube know. I promise you, it's free to hit the like button. Share this, share it on your Facebook. Just say, hey, if you want to actually hear the trial, what's going on, and you can't be there, there's no cameras there. Check this out. Listen to this guy. You come check him out. He got a great, amazing group of people, professional people, who come together to share and spreading the truth out to the people. So I appreciate y'all for being a part of this. Thank you, everybody that's in the chat. People I ain't seen in a minute, thank y'all for coming over in his service. House of the Princess, y'all support that sister, Lady E, Faith Burris. I could go on and on. Man, who the Jill Small, Tay Hay, how y'all, man? God bless y'all. I love all. Karen Johnson, what you doing up this late, Miss Karen Johnson? But I love all y'all, man. I appreciate y'all coming and supporting. And we're going to come back Wednesday night, y'all. Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, we're going to come back and we're going to continue where we left off, okay? I love y'all. God bless y'all. And peace out.